Hi there, welcome to yet another episode. My name is Mary. If you are coming across my channel for the first time, and if you are a returning subscriber, as always, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for always coming back to watch my content. It means a lot to me. Here in my channel, we do talk about family, relationships, teenagers, and education in general. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please watch the video up to the end. It really means a lot to me. I hope that you're fine wherever you are. You are doing fine, you're okay. Your family is fine and everyone is healthy. I would wish for us to have a conversation that is going to touch on families. So in a family, we have so many types of families, as I have previously discussed. So today I want to concentrate on a family that comprises of parents, that is father, mother, and the children. So maybe someone would be like, you are a single parent, what can you tell us? So if I can remind you, number one, I'm a trained and certified counselor, apart from just being a teacher. Apart from that, I was brought up in a complete family where I still have my mother and father. So I'm talking from my own experience growing up in a complete family, and also what I have observed through other families that I know of. So let's have this conversation. Dear parents, I want to talk about 3 common mistakes that parents make. And if you are watching me, please think so deeply about these common mistakes. They are so common that sometimes we think that it does not affect our children. But let me remind you that children grow up, they observe, and they are able to understand everything that is taking place. Sometimes they may not question you, and that is where most of the parents think that their children are not aware of what is happening around them. But the truth is, they observe and they don't speak out. And we may have so many reasons why they may not just be open up and tell you this is not okay. One of the reasons is probably because they fear you. They know if they talk or ask you about a certain issue, maybe you are going to be harsh on them, and what they'll decide to do is just to shut up. But remember, deep, it is affecting them psychologically. Have you ever heard of something called childhood trauma? Remember, childhood trauma is picked up in families as children grow up. And once they become adults, then everything opens up. And sometimes it may be very hard for you to understand maybe a colleague, a friend, a spouse. But the truth is, they behave in a certain way because of the way they were brought up. So what are these top 3 mistakes that any parent should avoid? The first one, arguing or fighting in the presence of children. Have you ever done such? So my dear, if you have conflict between you, it is prudent to find a space that is safe, away from children, where you can hold a discussion. Sometimes we may be so infuriated that we just blow up and we forget that children are present. And this is something that usually happens in so many families. And in the process, remember what is going to happen. You may be arguing with your spouse in the presence of your children, and remember, the argument is usually not polite. So remember that, and please don't forget, the argument is not going to be polite. And because it will not be polite, you may end up even sometimes abusing each other, just throwing those heavy terms. And remember, your children are observing. Sometimes you may think that they are too young, that you just, assume them. It is like they are not existing. But imagine, it is going to affect them. It is going to affect them. If you have a daughter who has observed you as a father who is abusive towards their mother, that daughter will be traumatized. So let me tell you something about it if you don't know. We are here to be educated, to grow together, to share, and just to build better families. So this daughter, as she grows up, chances are she may end up dating people that are like her father, because she doesn't know good. She doesn't know, being treated in a fair way. She grew up seeing a father who was abusive to the mother. And therefore, if she meets a man who is kind of toned down, a man who treats her well, she'll not stay with that man. And the reason is because she will feel like this is not the right person. And the reason is she did not have a role model. The only role model that she had was an abusive father. Therefore, she's going to lean towards men that are abusive. And that is the time you'll realize as a parent, there's a mistake that you did. And this is obvious. Let's talk about our sons. A son who grows up seeing her mother being physically abused, or, you know, mentally tortured, psychologically, and all that. That boy, remember, he's observing. Sometimes they'll never say anything. They'll grow, become teenagers, and then they'll start dating. And they'll just be like their fathers. And the reason is that is what they saw while growing up. That is what they experienced. They never saw their father treating their mother in the right way. And because of that, they'll end up becoming abusive, and the circle will keep on just going round and round. And it will be so hard to break such a circle. Imagine, it will be so hard to break such a circle. And the reason is because your grandchildren will watch your son or your daughter being treated in that way, and then they'll just keep the circle going round and round. So it is not only the male. Sometimes we have women that have super abusive, and for women it is so worse, because most of the women cannot fight physically, but they can be abusive verbally, emotionally. And you may find a man in a family who can't say anything, like they totally don't have any say. The mother is overall. So such a woman or a wife is planting the same seed to her children, and especially the daughters. That is how the daughters will end up becoming. And remember, the mistake will not be the children, the mistake will be the parent. And the reason is because that is how they grew up, watching you and your spouse being physical, abusing each other, mentally, whichever the way, torturing each other, no respect. It is like you're living with an enemy. That is how your children will end up becoming. And that is not what we want. We want an healthy society. If you can remember the video that sometimes back went viral in Kenya, there's this DJ who watched the wife committing suicide. If you did watch the video, you know what I'm talking about. So you can imagine the man, or rather the husband, was just somewhere in the sofa set relaxing, and their child was there. Think about it. How will this child grow up when this child becomes an adult? And the way we say social media does not forget. Of course, this child will bump into such a video. How will that child be affected mentally? And remember, it is because of, parents arguing, threatening each other, and eventually one committing suicide and the other one doesn't care. That is what we are talking about, the mistakes that we do. So, dear parent, avoid as much as you can to argue in the presence of your children. I know, of course, we are not perfect. We are not. What does that mean? Since we are not perfect, what can we do? If we have such situations, let us try to control our emotions. Let us control, our frustrations, our anger, bitterness, and all that. There are so many ways in which you can do it. Everyone, God created them with a way in which they can just, relax and then confront the issues that are affecting them. So find out. There are some people who may decide to take water, just cold water drink. There are those who would go out, long drives, go breathe in and out. There are those who would wish to talk to other people. So before it escalates to a point that your children are affected, do something, dear parent, because if you're not careful, your children are going to be affected. And that is the first mistake that majority of the parents do. And it seems like most parents don't care. And they don't care because of one reason: ego. There's something called ego. No one wants to feel the other one is winning. And in the process, we all go verbal, abusing each other, fighting in the presence of children. Like, you don't care. And the reason is because of ego. So please, dear parent, just find a way in which you can handle your issues privately. Today I sat down with my mother, chatting with her. Before I came to do this video, I asked her, how did they solve issues in the past? And she told me that in the past, most parents would wait until the children would fall asleep. And that is the time they would argue, talk about it in their bedrooms. They would be very patient. And that is what we are missing out. And especially this generation. This is what we are missing out. We are not patient. Like, if someone does something to you in a snap of the finger, you just want to settle it there and there, forgetting that you are a parent. So please, let's avoid that mistake. And then the other thing, this one, I talked with the friends of mine that are married, and most of them confessed that one mistake that is very, very common, and especially with this generation. So I'm talking about this generation. The generation, so which generation am I talking about? The generation of the 80s and 90s. And even 2000s, yeah. Most people don't trust each other. And because there's no trust, they told me that most of them have their own private properties. Do you have your private property? I'm calling it private in quotes. And the reason is because someone will go out, buy a piece of land, a plot, even sometimes, erect buildings, buy cars, get into business without involving their spouses. And the reason is because of lack of trust. So that is a common mistake that I rated it as the second one, and it is the most dangerous. And the reason is because you can imagine if you have accumulated a lot of wealth and you've never mentioned to your spouse. Sometimes people are very secretive that even they don't tell their own families, because they believe if they share with their families, it will eventually come back to the spouse. So they have other people that are trustees. So imagine if you were to die today, you had accumulated all that wealth. Your spouse is not aware. Yet you have children. What is going to happen? You are going to lose everything. And the reason is because people are not honest. They'll not come forward and tell your family about the property that you have accumulated. And I wonder, why is it that nowadays people get into marriage? It's like their mind is at 50-50. It is like, come we try and see whether it is going to work or not. So it is a very common mistake. And remember, this mistake is not going to affect your spouse the most. The person who will be affected the most are your children. And most of the time is because we hide these properties and we entrust them to the wrong people. In the process, sometimes they get lost. Like, you cannot even account. You don't know what happened and all that. There's a joke that I saw somewhere going round. There's a woman who built her own rentals, that is apartments, and she told her husband they need to move to one of the houses. And the husband kept on paying rent, like every month. He was paying around 70,000 Kenyan shillings every month. One day he came to realize that the apartments were owned by his wife. So you can just imagine how disappointing it can be. And the reason is because people don't trust each other. There's no trust. As much as you got married to this person, you have children, you stay under the same roof, but there's that aspect of lack of trust, and that is why there's a lot of things that are hidden. So think about it, my dear parents. If this is something that you've been doing, it is high time you become open to your spouse. Sometimes it is just open to tell a person you have this and that, not necessarily involving them like 100%. It is not like that, is not the point. But you can just tell them you have property A, property B, property C. Let them be in the picture. Let them be in the picture. Because at the end of the day, anything can happen. And once that happens, God forbid, if that happens, your children are going to be the losers. Just imagine. I asked a friend of mine who is married whether she has a joint account with the husband. And the answer was no. Like, she was like, oh, come on, Mary. How can I have a joint account with my husband? But I know of people that have joint accounts with their husbands, and it is working. It is only you creating trust in each other, having respect, just working as a family, working together towards a common goal, avoiding all these other side shows that are not important. And you'll realize that if you work together as a family, you're going to grow. You're going to grow as a family. You're going to grow economically. You'll be empowered, rather than if everyone is struggling to do their own stuff behind just behind your spouse. There is no need, because at the end of the day, you may lose everything that you have, and it is only your spouse who is going to help you. So because of that, let's do something. Let us try as much as we can and become open, and especially the women. That does not mean that men do not hide property. They do hide. So let's avoid that if we can, because it is a mistake that is going to cost all the family. Finally, the other mistake that is very, very common, and especially to this generation of the 90s, 80s, and 2000s, is being irresponsible. What do you think, my dear parent? Am I making sense? Most parents that we see around, they are very, very responsible. Very responsible. And remember, today my focus is not just on a single parent. I'm talking about a family that is complete. You may find the wife is working, the husband is working, but there's one person of the two who does not provide towards anything in the house. Some people are so mean. They are so egocentric that they don't care. But they work. Some people will be very generous to outsiders. Out there, they're well known to be generous. They are called in Harambes. They contribute a lot of money. They are called, in churches to contribute money. They do contribute. But when they go back home, they just go empty-handed. I know of parents that are extremely responsible, where their children don't go to school because of lack of school fees. And remember, they are working. Sometimes they lack food. Or if they're taking food, it is not balanced diet. We have parents that do not even buy, just clothes for their children. And it is not that they don't have money, they have. But these are the parents that you'll find out there that are well known to be very generous, dishing cash left, right. If they go to a club, they'll buy for people alcohol, any brand that you want, they'll give out. But they're so mean to their own families. And from statistics, and please check out so that I'm speaking from a point of reference. From statistics, it is shown that most people that are irresponsible are men. So dear men, I don't know where the rain started beating. I've never understood why most men are irresponsible. What could be the problem? Dear men, in my audience, please write to me. Let's make this discussion interesting. Why is it that most men are irresponsible? Why are they irresponsible? Is it that we are losing out, a generation of men that are responsible? And if men are irresponsible, who is going to teach our sons to become responsible? So from statistics, men are very responsible in a family setup, and you find that it is women who struggle, just to take care of the home, take care of the children, try to bring up developments and all that. There are men who have never helped their children to do homework. They don't care. In fact, even they don't know the subjects that the kids do. They don't know. They have never helped them to do homework. They have never ever visited their children in school. If it is visiting day, academic day, you'll find that in a gathering of 1,000, maybe 200 are men. And then the rest are women. Where are the fathers to these children? Where are they? And you find that most men will always delegate their duties to their wives. It is like these children are not theirs. So I once attended an academic day where the guest speaker talked about the formative years of children. That is very, very important and very crucial. So she said that from statistics, all the places that she has ever gone to give out a speech, the attendees are usually women in large numbers. And therefore, these small boys will grow up thinking that education is a woman's thing. It is not, masculine. And therefore, they'll never care about their children. And she was just trying to encourage women that had attended this particular academic day to go back and talk to their spouses so that they keep on coming for these celebrations and all that. My dear parents, there are some fathers who even don't know the first name of their children. You may think that I'm joking. Find out. And you may realize that they may keep on confusing names. And the reason is just because of being irresponsible. So when you talk about irresponsible people, we're not just referring to the financial matter. You can become irresponsible in so many aspects that are crucial. So dear parent, avoid these top 3 mistakes that are very common that I have mentioned. Remember, you are going to affect the future of your child. And because you are going to affect the future of your child, you should ensure that you do everything that you can. Anything that you do, let it be to the interest of your children. And if you're not very careful, you may end up messing around. You may mess around. And once these children grow up, you'll feel like sometimes they have neglected you. But the reason is because they saw you, how you are treating their mother, how you treated their father, and how you cared about them while they were young. I've seen so many parents that are, at old age. Most of them it's like they have been abandoned in the villages. And the reason is maybe there's something that they did to their children as they were growing up. There's a parent here in Kenya who took her son to court. And the parent was so furious and he said he wants monthly upkeep by force. And the reason is because he claimed he had educated his son. So you can imagine what made this old man to go to court. The son had neglected him. The question is, why did the son neglect him? And you are going to realize that sometimes it's because of these small mistakes that I have mentioned that this particular son endured as a child. And therefore, when they grow up, you realize that they don't care about their fathers. And remember, statistics has shown that men are very irresponsible. And that is why when children grow up, they align so much towards their mother as compared to fathers. So be very, very careful as a parent and avoid these top 3 mistakes that I've mentioned. My dear viewer, what do you think about this conversation? Please drop a comment, like this video. It will mean a lot to me. By you liking the video, you'll make YouTube to push it to so many people so that they can watch. We are here to empower each other, to educate, to learn, to share and to make this journey of family become, interesting and involving. And if it is the first time that you're coming across my channel, consider subscribing if you like what I am doing. To my returning subscriber, as always, thank you so much from my heart for always finding time to watch my video. Thank you and goodbye for now.